Hi everyone, Angela here. I have some more household items that you might have that you can use in your sewing group. If you haven't seen my first video, make sure to watch that, and again, I'll leave links for some of the products down in the description. This first hack was recommended to me by one of my viewers at KPMB9JX to use empty dental floss containers to create a travel sewing kit. You can easily store your threaded bobbins, your pins and needles, and use the little blade on it to cut your thread. These are long sewing tweezers, but you can use normal tweezers if you're in a pinch. Not only do they help you with threading a serger or overlocker, but it'll also help you tie short threads together. Wrap the longer thread around the tweezers, pull the shorter thread through, and repeat. Pipe cleaners are really handy as they're thin, fuzzy, and bendable. Clean the inside of your machine with them and use them to group your buttons together if you don't want to use little plastic bags. I use a vanishing ink pen a lot for my sewing. Spray it with a lot of water and make sure to soak it up with a clean towel. You can use kids' washable markers on your fabric, but just spraying it won't work. You really need to wash it for the ink to disappear. I was given a few of these number 15 disposable scalpels. They make amazing seam rippers. Just be really careful as they're extremely sharp. I mentioned hemostats in my last video, but something else you can do with them is clamp down and lock onto your thread and then pull it out by carefully turning it. This way you won't have lots of little threads to clean off. Another viewer, Leslie, recommends using a golf tee to hold a bobbin to its matching spool of thread. Something else you can use is a hairpin or bobby pin. Just pop on a very small bead, put through the bobbin, spread out the ends, and then squeeze into the spool. Take some small furniture felt pads, glue either golf tees or flat connector bolts to them, stick to the top of your sewing machine to hold your bobbins. These dental floss threaders can be used to help you thread your serger or overlocker, and also to pull your embroidery thread or yarn through a needle. When you're finished using a large glue stick, remove the base at the bottom and clean it out. Find a magnet the same size with a hole in the middle and glue it on. Put the base back on, and now you can conveniently store your assortment of needles. I found these M16 eye nuts or lifting eyes and thought they'd make great pattern weights. You can pretty it up by spray painting them, or what I did here was wrap soft underwear elastic around it. This is a stand to hold large cones of thread. Robin Smith recommends using an empty Scotch bottle box to do the same job. Use painter's tape with low tack to label your fabric. I have a habit of buying fabric and then forget what I bought it for. If you don't have a quilting guide bar, you can use the tape to help you sew even rows of stitching without marking your fabric. If you have a really good sewing hack, let me know down in the comments. Magnetic bowls are great to hold your pins and clips, and they come in different sizes. To strengthen your tissue paper patterns, first iron out all the creases, cover with clear packing tape, and then cut out. You can tape just one side or both sides. This is my ruler handle that easily attaches with suction cups. You can easily reposition the ruler, and using it makes it safer to cut your fabric. This next hack, Becky Ezra shared with me. Cut a length of tape, about 10 inches long, and then place down with glue side up. Cut another length of tape, about 6 inches long. Now carefully center this with glue side down onto the first piece of tape. Flip it over, create a bit of a curve, and then stick onto the center of the ruler. Now you have a quick and easy handle for your template. This is a skirt hem marker. You can adjust this piece up and down to where you want the chalk to be puffed out. Now if you just need a gauge so that you can pin evenly all around, Deborah Lee told me that she used to use a plunger. You can grab an O-ring or any type of elastic to use as your marker. Use one of these over-the-door hooks on your desk when you need a quick anchor. Great with using your loop turner for skinny tubes. Thread the turner into the tube, put the loop over the hook, pull the fabric over the end, and then pull the tube right side out. If you need to make a bit of cording, pull out a long length of embroidery floss, double it over the hook, and then knot it all together at the end. Insert a pen or a chopstick in between, hold the floss, and then twirl until the floss is really twisted up. Release from the hook, fold in half, smooth it out, letting it twist on to itself. Next we have painter's drop sheet or drop cloth. Some of these can be the size of a room, so you get a lot of fabric. This cotton canvas is heavy duty and tightly woven, so great for making bags. You can also use shower curtains for your sewing projects. They're great for linings or for making wet bags. They're inexpensive, and again, you get a lot of fabric. By using just lightweight cardboard, you can make yourself a pleating board. Measure the pleats on each side, connect by drawing all the lines, and then use something sharp like an awl to score each line. Fold along the lines to create the pleats, and then press on both sides. To hold the pleats in place, put heavy-duty double-sided tape on the back. Peel and then stick to another piece of cardboard measuring slightly bigger all around. To help with inserting the fabric, you can use tools such as this broad knife, a wide scraper, or a flexible filling blade. I have a length of fabric that's already been hemmed. Keeping the bottom edge parallel with the board, carefully push the fabric all the way into the pleat. You can press after each pleat or push all the pleats in and then press. Use a clapper after pressing to set the pleats. Carefully remove and just put the last pleat into the first pleat of the board to continue. You can make a board to any size pleat or style you like. This is my vintage Vin Max puff iron that my best friend gave me. You clamp it onto a table, turn it on, and this metal egg shape heats up. It was originally designed to make it easier to iron puff sleeves. Just put it over the egg and rub over slowly. It's also useful to iron fabric hats. These irons are no longer made, but you can still buy them secondhand. You can use one of these wool dryer balls to put underneath and carefully iron that way. I also found these round wooden post knobs at the hardware store. I then stretched 2 pieces of cotton batting over it, secured it with an elastic, trimmed away the excess, and then glued it to a craft teapot base. This literally took me about 2 minutes to make. This is a velvet board or needle board that I've had for about 40 years. You rest the right side of the velvet on top of the needles to iron so that the pile doesn't get crushed. To clean it, I use a cheap pet slicker brush. Now, even when I bought this, velvet boards can be quite expensive, especially for something that you don't use all the time. As I showed you in the last video, this is a piece of handrail that's round on the top and flat on the bottom. Use 2-inch wide adhesive hook tape or Velcro. The hard hooks will act as the needles. Just cut a length, remove the backing, and attach to the rail. Now you can easily gently steam your velvet seams. To steam larger areas, you can attach multiple strips to a wider board. I'm removing the hooks from an old coat rack just so I can use the nice finished board. Next, I'll open up and remove the needle pads from 3 slicker brushes. Then I'll trim away the extra fabric along the inner edges. I line it up with strong double-sided tape, remove the backing, and then attach firmly onto the board. This worked really well as an inexpensive velvet board. You can make patterns with baking paper, and because it's see-through, you can easily trace out patterns as well. In one of my tutorials, I show you how to use baking paper to trace and copy underwear. I'll show you a few things that you can do with freezer paper. Unlike baking paper, it's not see-through, it's dull on one side and has a shiny plastic coating on the other. I also have other freezer paper that's kind of shiny on both sides and the plastic coating is a little bit duller. To make appliques, cut a piece slightly smaller than your printer paper. With the plastic side down, center it onto the printer paper and press together. With my printer, I need to load it with the freezer paper side down. Then print your desired shape. Carefully cut it out and peel away the printer paper. Press with the plastic side onto the wrong side of your fabric. The heated plastic sticks to the fabric, giving you a nice light bond. Cut out, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance all around. If you have curves, clip small notches halfway into the seam allowance. Fold all the fabric along the edge of the paper and press down. Now remove the applique paper and carefully pin it onto your fabric ready to sew. The applique pattern can also be used several times. If you need to add buttonholes onto a project, make a buttonhole on a scrap piece of fabric to make sure that the size and style is correct. With the plastic side down, I'm going to cut a 2.5 inch wide template for the front of this sample. Work out where the center of the buttonholes will be from the edge, draw a line, and then score it. Fold the edge of the paper under, creasing along that line. Measure the width and length of your buttonhole, and then mark out the spacing onto the template. Next, outline the length and half the width of each buttonhole, and then carefully cut out. Open up and then draw a line across the bottom of each buttonhole. Carefully line up the edges and press the template onto the fabric. For each buttonhole, slide in until you can see your fabric through the opening of your buttonhole attachment. The bottom and center lines should match up with the marks on your attachment. Also check that the sides are parallel. Hopefully, by being able to see the fabric through the template, makes sewing buttonholes just a little less daunting. You can see that freezer paper would also be useful for positioning labels, straps, and pockets. Cut the freezer paper the same size as your printer paper. Put the plastic side onto the wrong side of your fabric, press together, and then trim down to the paper size. For my printer, I insert with fabric side down. Print whatever design you choose, peel away the paper, and then your fabric is ready for your project. Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this video. Thanks again for watching. Take care and happy sewing.